Boom, what up? This was a situation that came up in guild chat the other day where someone was pugging Heroic Fyrak. They used their cooldown before the pull on accident, and they asked people to reset the boss. Question is, should you reset the boss or just pull without the cooldown? Well, here I think it's a pretty simple answer, but I think this is slightly deeper than people realize, and people overwhelmingly make the wrong choice when it comes to things like this for reasons that should be familiar to anyone who knows what I believe. So, Heroic Fyrak takes something like 7 minutes. That's something like 420 seconds. Resetting the boss maybe takes 30 seconds additionally. I think it's actually a lot longer than that because you're not going to send the pull timer exactly correctly. You're going to need another ready check because people are stupid. You know, it's going to be some friction and maybe it takes like 50 seconds, but whatever. Let's say it's 30 seconds because that's the boss respawn time. So if I add 30 seconds to our sort of time spent until killing the boss, then we need to kill the boss 30 seconds faster from this cooldown to make it worth it. Let's assume Heroic Fyrak has 1 billion health, which is maybe not right, but I know in Mythic he has 1.5 billion. I don't know, the fight takes a little longer, Mythic scaling, something. Let's say 1 billion is close enough. So if I want to kill a boss 30 seconds faster with this cooldown, then the amount of extra damage per second that this cooldown has to be worth is 1 billion over 390, which is our DPS with the cooldown when we kill it faster, minus 1 billion over 420, which is sort of our expected kill time without the cooldown. This value is X, which is how much additional DPS do we need to make our fight time 30 seconds faster. And like for these values in the denominator, this could be any time difference you want. Like if you want to kill the boss 5 seconds faster, then this expression will tell like how much damage do you need to kill a boss 5 seconds faster with a certain amount of health. Well, in this situation, X is 180,000. And clearly, no 3-minute cooldown in the game is giving you 180,000 DPS. Not even fucking Unholy DK and Avarice is getting that much from their army. Like, you're still getting 2 uses of 3 minutes on a 7-minute pull. Your spec isn't doing more than 540k, and if all your damage is coming from your 3 usage of 3 minutes, then like a third of that would be 180k. I don't know, like this is just an unreasonable number. And maybe to see that like 30 over 420, which is the sort of fraction of time saving that you're trying to get, is approximately 1/15th, which is suspiciously something like the average damage that a DPS player will do in a 20-person raid, which has about 15 DPS. It's like there's no coincidence here that these things are pretty similar. All that is to say, like, there's no cooldown in the game that gives you 180,000 DPS. Go ahead, pull the boss. Your parse is going to be bad. No one cares. We're saving time. But I think people get this mistake wrong a lot more than this in just like random heroic pugs. There are a ton of situations where the most efficient thing to do is to just fucking game. It doesn't matter what you're talking about. It doesn't matter what details you're sorting out. It doesn't matter any other bullshit you're focusing on. Just pull the boss and blast, and you will save time. So this applies to Prog as well. What are some examples? Well, when you wipe, everyone puts down a feast. And then everyone goes and eats the feast, and they sit around, and they wait to hit the ready check until they have their feast buff and their augment rune buff and everything else. How much progress time do you think the food buff is saving you during Prog? Now, I could believe it if you're telling me like, yo, we're pushing deep into Fyrak P3 on Mythic. We like legit need a lot of DPS because any pull could be the kill pull, and killing Fyrak 2 or 3 seconds faster skips a set of blazes when we have a bunch of seeds out that are almost guaranteed to wipe the raid. In that case, yeah, make sure you have all of your shit ready to go because the most important thing is just like killing the boss. If you're on pull 50 of Tindral, what is a food buff going to do for you? Like, if you're a guild reaching Tindral right now, I can be very clairvoyant and say that your first 200 pulls, your damage does not matter at all. Like, as long as you can break the shield in P2, you don't need any damage really elsewhere. Like, maybe you need to break some roots. Your dragons are mostly doing that. You could save every fucking cooldown in the world for all the roots, and probably that would make your prog faster than had you played normally. As long as you can break shields and break roots, which don't take that much DPS, no amount of marginal throughput is changing the result of any of those first 200 wipes. They're all going to be to pass-fail mechanics that blow up the raid instantly. To that end, the most important thing to do is get back to those mechanics and practice them as much as possible in the shortest amount of time. And you can do that by pulling really fast. Sometimes on Tindral, you might need to stop and actually talk about what you're doing, like, oh, this person misunderstands the feather assignments, or this person doesn't understand how we're supposed to be spreading out for the seeds. Stuff like that, sure, go ahead and talk strategy. But a lot of times people realize exactly the thing they fucked up. It's very clear that it was just like an execution check, or like someone hit the wrong dispel, or like they dwarfed themselves when they weren't supposed to, or something like that. Just pull the boss one more time. Like, having a little bit more throughput isn't going to change anything. It's just purely wasting time. And if you think about it, in Amir Drasil, we are probably going to pull the bosses cumulatively 1,000 times, which is like, I don't know, 400 on Tindral, 300 on Fyrak, 100 on Smolderon, 100 on the prior bosses, maybe 100 between Heroic and, I don't know, maybe we kill Fyrak in like 350 or something because we're bad. I don't know, we're going to have 1,000 pull timers. If we're sending 10-second pull timers, then that is more than 2.5 hours of pull timers. Now, obviously, we can't get this down to 0 seconds because we need a little bit of time. But like, what if we just sent 5-second pull timers for most of Prague? Would this change anything? Well, it's like, well, maybe some people care about their pre-pull, and guess what? I don't care about your pre-pull at all. It doesn't matter. Whatever you're doing before the pull is not important to our Prague. Just, we need to practice the boss. If we could pull in 5 seconds instead of 10 seconds for just, half of these pulls, we would save half of 2.7, which is like, I don't know, it's like 40 minutes or something. That's a lot of progress time. 40 minutes is like 10 or 15 pulls on progression bosses that we just otherwise don't have because we spend too much time waiting for pull timers. And if you think, really, we're not delaying pull timers by 10 seconds because that's the length of a pull timer, but often we're delaying them by more because we're just like waiting for people to get organized for no fucking reason. Like, what if we stopped doing all this, like, waiting for people's cooldowns, waiting for people to buff up, all this random shit? What if we just pulled bosses really quickly and tried to fucking game? Maybe we could save like 2 hours. Like, I don't think that's unreasonable given that we can save 40 minutes by just like sending shorter pull timers on half of our pulls. If we're like actually think a little bit harder and trying to be a little bit more efficient of how we pull bosses, we could pretty reasonably save 2 hours of progression time from just like time spent fucking around and like buffing ourselves up instead of pulling bosses. 2 hours is half a raid night. That's like, these things matter a lot. When a tier is going to be something like 20 raid nights, 7 weeks of 3 raid nights, maybe it's like 20 to 25 raid nights, saving half of one is saving 2% of your total time in the entire raid. 2% is just like, that's a big deal. People care about things like augment runes, which gives them less than 0.5% of damage, not even less than 0.5% of progress time, and yet we're just ignoring massive ways to save like multiple percents of our total progress time on a boss. Especially, there's some amount of fixed progress time that you can't really get rid of. Like, you just need, some number of pulls on every boss that you can't really avoid. But there's some amount of progress time that we could save from just playing a little bit more efficiently, and we're just throwing away like a huge fraction of that like savable progress time by sending slow pull timers and being slow to get ready for the next pull. If you're someone who's like, yo, I just use my trinket before the pull, don't pull the boss yet, we need to wait for it to come up. Like, think about the fact that there are 19 other people and the fact that your trinket maybe contributes like 10k DPS to a pull that's going to be over in 5 minutes or something. Your particular desires and needs for your own damage do not matter in a raid of 20 people. And that is maybe the like large lesson of Progression Ring, is that it is a big organized team activity. And if you're in Mythic Plus, maybe we should care about your cooldowns, but in a 20-man environment where we're going to wipe to someone missing a seed or something, your damage is not relevant. We just need to pull, and no one cares about how you are performing personally. Anyway, that's it. I think if you're in a guild, if you have any input into how your guild operates, start pulling the boss faster. You're not Liquid, you're not Echo. There's not a lot of complex strategy to talk about. There's not a lot of complicated weak wars to make. You just need to pull the fucking boss and get over it.